December 31st, 2025, an Instagram account posted a warning that would spread across every major social platform within days. The claim was simple, specific, and terrifying. On August 12, 2026, at exactly 14:33 UTC, the Earth would lose gravity. Not metaphorically, literally. For 7 full seconds, the pull holding you to the ground would simply switch off and then, just as suddenly, switch back on. The Post claimed NASA had known about this for 5 years through a secret initiative called Project Anchor, backed by an $89 billion budget to protect key personnel, while the rest of the world was left to deal with an estimated 40 million deaths from falls, collapsing buildings, and mass panic. It spread through TikTok, Instagram, X, and Facebook, and it's still circulating today. So let's actually take this apart, piece by piece, using real physics and real reporting, and then look at a newer variant of the theory that's been spreading alongside it. The idea that CERN, not gravitational waves, is the real trigger, and that the culprit isn't gravity switching off at all, but electromagnetic pulses tearing through the atmosphere. Start with the original claim, because understanding where it breaks helps explain why the CERN version breaks too. The Instagram post described the cause as the intersection of 2 gravitational waves from colliding black holes, supposedly predicted back in 2019 with a stated probability of 94.7%. That number sounds precise, almost scientific, which is exactly the kind of detail that makes a false claim feel credible. But gravitational waves are real, measurable phenomena, and physicists have understood their behavior for decades. They are ripples in space-time, and they are almost unimaginably weak by the time they reach Earth from anywhere outside our own solar system. The famous first detection of gravitational waves in 2015 required an instrument called LIGO, sensitive enough to measure a distortion in space-time thousands of times smaller than the width of a single proton. That's the scale we're talking about. A gravitational wave passing through Earth does not shut gravity off. It doesn't come close. The entire premise requires treating gravity as something with an on and off switch, and gravity simply doesn't work that way. Earth's gravitational pull comes from its mass, full stop. Nothing about a wave passing through space-time removes mass from a planet even for a fraction of a second. Journalists and fact-checkers moved on this quickly. Snopes reached out directly to NASA and got about as flat and clear a denial as an agency ever gives. Earth will not lose gravity on August 12, 2026, because gravity is determined by mass, and nothing scheduled to happen that day changes Earth's mass. Researchers looking for the supposed leaked Project Anchor document that supposedly started this whole thing found nothing. No trace of it anywhere prior to that original Instagram post. No matching terminology in any actual NASA program. No budget line resembling the $89 billion figure being passed around. The original poster deleted their account within days of putting the claim online. What NASA confirmed is actually happening on August 12, 2026 is something real, just far less dramatic. A total solar eclipse, visible across parts of Europe and the North Atlantic. Eclipses happen because the moon passes directly between the Earth and the sun. They have absolutely no effect on gravity, and they've been predicted with total precision by astronomers for centuries, using nothing more exotic than orbital mechanics. So where does CERN come into this? This part of the theory isn't from the original December post. It's a variant that's grown up alongside it, swapping out the gravitational wave explanation for something involving the Large Hadron Collider. The massive particle accelerator CERN operates near Geneva. The theory, in its CERN form, suggests that the facility firing back up generates electromagnetic pulses powerful enough to disturb the atmosphere, and that this disturbance is somehow the real mechanism behind the supposed August 12th gravity event. It's a newer coat of paint on the same core claim, borrowing CERN's reputation for being genuinely complicated, genuinely secretive-sounding physics that most people don't fully understand, the same way the original version borrowed NASA's authority. Here's where the CERN version runs into a problem that's almost embarrassingly simple to check. As of this year, the Large Hadron Collider isn't firing up. It's switched off. CERN shut the LHC down on June 29th, 2026, beginning what they call Long Shutdown 3, a planned, publicly announced maintenance period expected to last roughly 4 years while engineers dismantle over a kilometer of the accelerator and upgrade it into a more powerful version called the High Luminosity LHC. Technicians have spent the weeks since that shutdown slowly warming more than 36,000 tons of cryogenic equipment back up from near absolute zero, a process that takes real time and isn't remotely close to reversing into a restart. In other words, the specific mechanism this theory depends on, CERN's collider firing back up around this date and disturbing the atmosphere, is happening at exactly the moment the collider is doing the opposite. It's cold, it's dismantled in sections, and it's not scheduled to run again in its new form until 2030. Even setting the timing problem aside, the physics itself doesn't hold up any better than the gravitational wave version. The Large Hadron Collider does use enormous magnetic fields to steer particle beams, and it does involve genuinely large amounts of electrical infrastructure, but those fields are tightly contained within the accelerator's own magnets and beam pipes, engineered specifically
electromagnetic disturbance, even a genuinely large one, doesn't have a mechanism for switching off gravitational attraction, because gravity isn't generated or maintained by electromagnetic fields in the first place. You could run every particle accelerator on the planet simultaneously at full power, and you would not put a dent in Earth's gravitational field, because that field comes from the sheer mass of the planet itself, not from any electromagnetic process happening on its surface. So why do stories like this keep working in one form or another, regardless of which real institution gets cast as the secret cause? Because they follow a formula that's proven remarkably durable. Take a real, respected, genuinely complex scientific institution, NASA, CERN, take your pick. Because complexity reads its credibility to people who haven't studied the underlying physics closely. Attach a specific date, a specific time, a specific casualty number, because specificity feels like evidence even when none of it is sourced. Add a secrecy angle, a cover-up, a budget line, because it explains why you've never heard mainstream confirmation of the claim. And then let social media do what social media does best, rewarding the version of a story that generates the strongest emotional reaction, rather than the version that's actually true. The CERN electromagnetic pulse variant isn't really a separate theory from the gravitational wave version. It's the same theory, wearing a different disguise, adapted for an audience that's heard slightly different keywords and found this version more convincing. The actual checkable facts are these. Gravity comes from mass, and nothing scheduled to happen on August 12, 2026 changes Earth's mass in any way. NASA has explicitly and directly denied any program resembling Project Anchor. The Large Hadron Collider is currently powered down and disassembled for a multi-year upgrade, not firing up, which makes it physically impossible for it to be the mechanism behind an event scheduled for this specific date. And the one real, documented, entirely predictable event actually happening that day is a total solar eclipse, the kind of celestial event humans have understood well enough to forecast years in advance since long before either NASA or CERN existed. Everything else, the 7 seconds, the 40 million deaths, the secret budgets, the electromagnetic pulse, is a story built to